I was looking at the chat, and some of you guys were like, we need a few less Snow White-like movies. I couldn't agree with you more. Like, all this woke stuff has to end.
However, others argue that it's precisely Robbie's range and her ability to make complex characters lovable that makes her the perfect fit. Interestingly, the studio has not yet confirmed who will play the prince or the evil queen, two roles that will be pivotal in grounding the story's dynamic arcs. Given the misfires in romantic and villainous character development in the last film, Disney is reportedly proceeding carefully with casting these parts. Names are being kept under wraps, though early speculation hints that the studio is seeking to cast opposite Robbie with equal star power to maintain balance across the narrative and avoid past mistakes where secondary characters felt underdeveloped. Production is expected to begin in early 2026, with a theatrical release tentatively slated for spring 2028.
I mean, journalists weren't even invited to show up at the red carpet for the premiere, because they were afraid she was going to say something that would hurt the movie even more.
And newer generations. Music will reportedly play a significant role once again, with a reimagined score that pays homage to the original's memorable melodies while introducing fresh compositions.
And you know what? There's a reason for it to end right now, and it's in part because this stupid movie, Snow White, just totally bombed at the box office. They spent $270 million on this thing. They're not going to make their money back.
Insiders say this version of the character will emphasize inner strength, kindness, and timeless grace over one-dimensional charm. Unlike the last attempt, which was heavily criticized for reworking the character's motivations to fit a more empowered archetype in ways that many found disjointed, this version is expected to return to the emotional core of the original while naturally updating her for a modern audience, one that aims to reset the studio's approach to the iconic fairy tale after the fallout from its last ill-fated adaptation. This high-profile reboot is being framed as a clean slate for both the studio and the beloved character.
EV Magazine wrote on X, when you compare how Rachel Ziegler spoke about Snow White to how other actresses who played live-action Disney princesses spoke about their character, really underlines just how poorly she carried herself.
Whose legacy took a hit following the controversial version led by Rachel Zegler. With Robbie stepping into the role, Disney is clearly signaling its intention to steer the Snow White narrative back toward classic storytelling, while keeping one foot firmly planted in the modern cinematic landscape. Sources close to the production describe this new version as a reconstruction. The conclusion was clear: charm, romance, whimsy, music, and moral clarity must remain front and center if this new adaptation is to succeed. Margot Robbie's casting, however, is more than just a headline. It's also a gamble. The actress is coming off the massive success of Barbie, one of the most culturally impactful films of the decade. That film catapulted her into an even brighter spotlight, cementing her status as one of the most bankable and versatile stars working today. Disney is undoubtedly hoping that Robbie's popularity, credibility, and proven ability to balance humor with heart will give the new Snow White the kind of momentum that the studio desperately needs after several shaky live-action outings. Reaction online has been swift and passionate. The new project is being developed under an entirely different creative team than the previous remake, which sources say was riddled with conflicting visions. This time, Disney is bringing in filmmakers known for blending elegance with emotional storytelling, aiming to craft a narrative that can appeal to both nostalgic fans. Unlike the previous version, which scaled back on musical moments, this remake is expected to lean into the whimsical and musical identity that made the 1937 film a genre-defining masterpiece. Fans will also be relieved to know that the beloved dwarfs will make their return, faithfully, but with thoughtful updates that respect both the source material and today's cultural sensitivities.
And now the producer's son is coming out and blaming the whole thing on Rachel Zegler. He's not wrong. I mean, Rachel Zegler tanked this. There's a lot of other reasons they tanked.
The loudest criticisms of the prior film was its approach to these characters, whose removal or redesign was met with widespread confusion and backlash. In the upcoming version, Disney intends to preserve their presence while updating how they're portrayed, ensuring they remain true to the spirit of the original, but grounded in more careful character development and modern sensibilities.
Everything has to be that. You know, this is a, and also what is beautiful about the original Snow White too is the hand-drawn animation, right? Is the beauty of the cartoon. Yeah, and it's really, there's an authenticity to it.
Some fans are thrilled, calling Robbie's casting unexpected but inspired, while others remain cautiously optimistic, hoping that this version will bring back the emotional weight and fairy tale magic that felt absent in the previous adaptation. A few purists have raised concerns about whether Robbie, typically known for more mature or layered characters, will be able to inhabit the simplicity and purity that many associate with Snow White. The decision to recast Snow White with an actress as globally recognized as Margot Robbie is being seen not only as a move towards star power, but as a calculated attempt to regain the confidence of moviegoers who were left disappointed or outright disillusioned by the previous film. Disney insiders confirm that the goal of this project is emotional resonance over reinvention. In other words, audiences can expect a return to form rather than a deconstruction. The creative team, including producers with experience in both animated and live-action storytelling, reportedly held a series of internal workshops to break down what makes Snow White resonate across generations. After the last adaptation failed to hit its box office targets and drew criticism for deviating from the tone and heart of the 1937 animated classic, many assumed the title would be shelved indefinitely. But with Margot Robbie's casting, Disney is not just reviving Snow White, it's reclaiming it. This development also underscores how fast the studio is willing to pivot when a project fails to land.
Hollywood became so confused over identity politics that it turned on itself, because insiders say the industry never held any true values.
And how quickly it will reassemble its creative arsenal in pursuit of audience redemption. Robbie, known for her captivating performances in Barbie, I, Tanya, Babylon, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, brings an A-list pedigree to a role that has often demanded a delicate balance of innocence, strength, and emotional depth. While she may seem like an unconventional choice for the traditionally sweet and demure Snow White, insiders say this version of the character will emphasize inner strength, kindness, and timeless grace over one-dimensional charm. Unlike the last attempt, which was heavily criticized for reworking the character's motivations to fit a more empowered archetype in ways that many found disjointed, this version is expected to return to the emotional core of the original while naturally updating her for a modern audience.
I was looking at the chat, and some of you guys were like, we need a few less Snow White-like movies. I couldn't agree with you more. Like, all this woke stuff has to end.
The new project
Weekend 2 delivers even more box office humiliation for Snow White.
That project, despite initial fanfare, was plagued by a poor reception, viral backlash, and weeks of online discourse that became a PR nightmare for the studio. With Robbie now taking the crown, Disney seems intent on restoring its fairy tale gold standard. The announcement came as a surprise to many, especially considering how recently the studio appeared to distance itself from the Snow White property after the last adaptation failed to hit its box office targets and drew criticism for deviating from the tone and heart of the 1937 animated classic. Many assumed the title would be shelved indefinitely. But with Margot Robbie's casting, Disney is not just reviving Snow White,